Hello, good day, everyone. Welcome to the show. Is CoinNewsExtra TV interview, a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, influencers in the blockchain, crypto, and fintech ecosystem to come air their view. So today we're going to talk about the future of digitalization in Africa. So we see a lot of things are happening in Africa. We hear about digitalization and the rest of them. So today we're going to be looking at that and coming to understand fully well how this digitalization works and how it's going to be playing a role in Africa. So joining me to have this conversation is Foster Kofi Sam, who is the Chief Vision Officer, Digital Foundation Africa. He's joining us from Accra, Ghana. You're welcome to the show, Kofi.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Yeah, it's our pleasure having you. How is Accra today?
Accra is good. I think, I'm sure you've heard that the Vice President of the US is in Ghana now, so there's a lot of activities ongoing. But apart from that, the ecosystem is also thriving.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. So nice
Yeah.
having you on the show. Very interesting to know what is really happening in Ghana. So for our audience, wherever you're joining us from, we are live, broadcasting live across 4 channels. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. So wherever you're joining us from, do well to like this live broadcast and also share it. So we'll go for a quick break. When we return, we'll dive into the conversation proper. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's the CoinNewsExtra TV interview session. We're talking about the future of digitalization in Africa. Let me ask you this, Foster. How do you see blockchain technology playing a role in the future of digitalization in Africa? And what impact do you think it can make in the continent?
Thank you very much, my brother. I believe blockchain contributes to one of the future of Africa because blockchain with its distributed databases and among other services that it intends to provide, there is a lot of ways that blockchain can either accelerate our development and also help curb the normal the normal idea people have when it comes to corruption and among other stuff, other aspects. So I believe blockchain is part of the future of digitalization in Africa.
We look at let's look at some of the ways, when we are talking about digitalizations, where are some of the areas, digitalization will be of essence in Africa?
Digitalization, I would say it's something that affects all the sectors of the economy. Talk about transportation, talk about agriculture, talk about financial inclusion, talk about all e-commerce, every aspect of the African economy. Digital plays a key role in that aspect. So I wouldn't take any of these key sectors out. Digitalization and digitization actually affect all the aspects of the digital of the African economy. So that's what I'll say. I won't take any of them out.
Is there what I want to know from that question? Is there a particular area you feel that this digitalization is most needed in Africa? So that's what I wanted to know from there.
Well, yes, I think number one thing is the financial sector. Um, of finance, which actually powers almost all aspects of the key economies in Africa. So it's one area that is, blockchain can actually, digitize as well as revolutionize the whole space when it comes to the financial aspect of the African economy. So it's one of the key areas that digitization as well as um, blockchain can actually help in realizing our purpose or in accelerating our development within that space.
You're talking about digitalization and blockchain playing a role here. Let's look at the aspect of startup. How do you think, or some of the unique challenges when it comes to and opportunities that comes with launching a blockchain startup in Africa?
Well, I would say one of the things is most of the people don't really understand what blockchain is or the crypto technology is. And so one key challenge is, the understanding of the users. They do not really understand what it entails to what the blockchain technology actually entails and how best they can actually leverage on. It's gradually that people are really understanding what blockchain is all about, and so most of these startups within the blockchain industry need have to do a lot of education in that aspect, both from policies point of view and both from the usage point of view.
Okay, we see what is happening in UAE. Looking at Dubai, that is in UAE, we see how they are really creating opportunities for blockchain companies, startups, and also from there they're also creating revenue from blockchain and cryptocurrency. How do you think that blockchain technology can be leveraged by African countries to attract investment and economic development or growth?
So I believe there are two aspects to this. First of all, there's the point where we need to look at the policy aspect. And we also need to look at where the usage aspect is. When I talk about policy aspect, my focus is more on does these government, because when you talk about digitalization or and taking one point, which is the blockchain technology or blockchain industry, has to be one that these central banks needs to understand. They need to understand the space very well and need to know how best they are developing a policy around it, so that one, it does not really affect the startup that come out of it, does not really affect the usage of these systems, as well as things that can also help both the government and the users of these platforms to go. You used Dubai as one of the examples in the UAE that is doing a lot of innovative stuff or a lot of services within the blockchain industry. These are, I'll say UAE is one of the countries that when it comes to their digital plan, they understand where they are going. They understand what exactly they intend to achieve in the next 5 or 2 or 3 years. Bring it to Africa. Do we even have a digital policy? How many countries within the West African space or how many countries within the African Union do have a national digital plan that they are working towards? Even the union itself, I mean the African Union, we do not have a national or a continental digital plan that we are working towards. And so each country has taken the mantle or they've taken the battle into their own hands. They do not really know where exactly they are going. So everybody is just trying to develop ABCD services within the blockchain service. But if there is a policy aspect that actually governs, that helps for people or even for startup founders to understand that, okay, for example, when it comes to Ghana and Nigeria, when it comes to blockchain, when it comes the financial aspect, this is what we want to achieve within the next 2 or 3 years in terms of policy. We understand, and as well as it will help these startups, so it will help these funders in how they are going to develop services around that kind of technology to help in the digitalization space. But we do not have something like that. So it's one key aspect that we need to really understand. This is just from the policy stance or the policy point of governance. When it comes to the startup aspect, there is a whole lot of issues that we all need to understand. Blockchain, if you do not understand, you think a lot of people who do not really understand will say, "Oh, this is just fraud." But it's one of the technologies that will really, really, really change a lot of things, including the artificial intelligence bit of the whole blockchain technology that will change the financial aspects of the African digital economy.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that. Still on the conversation, but before we go further, I will go for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's Coin News Extra TV interview. So we're talking about the future of digitalization in Africa with Foster Kofi Sam. So we've been able to go. I've been able to look at some of the questions that we have here. I've seen how digital transformation is happening in Africa. So let me ask you, in case you're just joining us, do well to like and share this live broadcast, any platform you're joining us from. Foster, what are some of the key trends and development in the blockchain space that you are keeping an eye on, and how do you see this impacting the wider African market?
I would say I'm not, when it comes to the blockchain space, I'm not that, a big expert in that space. I'm just a follower when it comes to the blockchain space. But, there's been a whole lot of services or a whole lot of events in Ghana that I've really been following, like the Web3 space, a whole lot of things that is really going on in that particular. And I think it's something that will really, really change. That the aspect of the aspect of the blockchain industry when it comes to that. That's what I can say, because there is not much attention that I have really put into the blockchain, other than reading much about the technology and how best it's going to really help with the future of digitalization in Africa. I would say it's something that is really, really most governments as well as ecosystem players need to look at when it comes to the role of technologies accelerating our development.
Yeah, I know some of the key trends that we've been observing is the likes of stablecoin and CBDC. Also, we're trying to see how that will settle in Africa. Before we draw the curtain on today's episode of Coin News Extra TV interview session, I'd like to get your opinion on digitalization. How do you see the future for Africa in the next 10 years?
Africa is the next big thing. Everybody believes that Africa is the next big thing. And if Africa is the next big thing, the only thing that is going to power us to be the next big thing when it comes to the world is digital. And digitalization, well, there is a whole lot of things when it comes to Africa. Talk about the talent aspect of digitalization, talk about the technologies that we are developing and the ones that we are even implementing. But I would say, aside these digitalization, processes that Africa is going through, and most of these countries are going through, the key thing is making sure we have the needed policy. It's not just something that we need to leave to the government, or something that we need to leave to just the users or the players within that space to understand. It's something that really actually affects. For example, when it comes to education, There is the ICTs in education that is helping move education forward. But the question you and I we need to really understand ourselves. We need to ask ourselves is, are the teachers even digitally literate to leverage on these technologies within that space? Talk about CBC, as you talked about. How are the central banks in Africa ready to use most of these emerging technologies to help us in terms of how they are making good use of our monies and how the security bets of our monies within these central banks. Talk about transportation, e-commerce. These are aspects within the digitalization, the future of digitalization in Africa, that will revolutionize a whole lot of services within our space. And the end goal is we want to provide like last mile solutions to the end users. So at the end of the day, digitalization has to affect people that are using it in a positive way, but rather not in a negative way. That's what I would say on that aspect.
Thank you very much, Foster Kofi Sam, who is the Chief Vision Officer, Digital Abundance Africa. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you very much, my brother. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, and thank you, our audience, for bringing our time to joining us. Thank you very much for coming your way again today by 3 p.m. West African time with Crypto History. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you, and see you on our next show. Bye for now.